Hi everyone. I hope you all had a great break, and I'm very happy to have you with me on stage. So we are here for 50 minutes for some debates. So we'll have a round table. So don't hesitate during the round table to ask questions in the chat. We will integrate your questions during the round table, or the participants will answer at the end if we can't or don't have time to put your question inside the roundtable. So today, how to say it? We have DPOs that doesn't always have the tech culture, and on the other side we have developers, architects who sees GDPR as annoying or blocking in their process to deliver values and features. So we have two worlds, legal and tech, that doesn't understand each other's, and so we are here to try to make them communicate again, and we are here to see how we can fill the gap between developers and DPOs. And to achieve this great mission, we have Xavier Leclerc, who is a CEO at the Neoshields. So hello, Xavier, can you present yourself?
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Jules. Yes, we will try to solve that problem together. I'm, as you said, the CEO of the Neoshields, and as well, I'm the president of the Union of DPO in France and vice president and co-founder of the European Federation of DPOs.
Great, thank you very much. And we also have Amal Marc with us, who is a former CNIL Senior legal counsel and a cybersecurity consultant. Hello, Amal.
Hello. Hi, everyone. So before starting, I will just remember that I was taking courses within Xavier classes 10 years back because he was training the first DPOs of the market. And I had the opportunity to have different roles to look at the GDPR from different angles. So sitting on customer side, consultancy side, public, private, and also worked for the CNIL, which is the Data Protection Authority for France.
Great. And we also have Benjamin Hanson-Luc, who is a co-founder and CEO at Leto.legal. Hello, Benjamin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jules. Glad to be here today. Yes, I'm a former developer, former CTO and entrepreneur, and now the CEO and co-founder of Leto.legal, privacy ops SaaS solution. So yeah, great to be here.
And last to debate with us today is Manfred Touron, a privacy architect. Hello, Manfred.
Hello. I'm Manfred. I'm deeply involved in the privacy topic for about 10 years now, but I started being involved in the GDPR legal stuff only 1 year ago. I'm the guy between the legal team and the developers, so mostly as an intermediary role. I also have a privacy company on the side, but purely technical. And I'm certainly the least expert in the room in terms of pure GDPR, but I hope that my field of experience in terms of implementation will be helpful.
Great, thank you very much. So just to make a summary, so we are here to try to fill the gap between dev and DPOs. And so my first question to you all will be a little bit provocative. So why developers should care about privacy and GDPR on the first place? I don't know, maybe who wants to talk first? Xavier? I let you talk.
If you are the main aspect of this is the opposite. If they don't care, then it will be very difficult to achieve GDPR compliance, meaning they will develop tools that will not be privacy by design, and therefore very difficult to redo them and be compliant regarding, for example, access rights, regarding duration period of the data, etc., etc., etc. So that's why it should be important to take care of privacy at the start with them.
Yeah, maybe you can add one point here. Just one step back on why the GDPR, to remember everybody, and it will bring us to discuss why developers today. But the GDPR was created on one hand to enhance people's rights on the way of which their data is being processed. And on the other hand, it was to create more constraint for organization processing personal data. So the burden was put on the shoulders of organization to demonstrate that they're accountable on the way they process the data in respect to the people that are concerned by the processing. At the beginning, it was a legal conversation for lawyers, okay, to determine how to understand it. There was a lot of debate and interpretation. And then it came back slowly to organization to decide what they want to do and how they want to do it. Then it was widened a bit to legal and security community, to risk and compliance departments. And today, you know, it's like getting to touch the developers because it's entering slowly to the tech.
Great. Thank you very much, Amal. So finally, if I understand you, it's quite recent that we need or we have to involve developers in GDPR compliance. So how can we achieve that? How can we make developers more involved in the privacy by design, for example, as you said, Xavier?
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. It's true that, I mean, before, you know, the developers was just receiving the specs and just implementing it, right? But at the very end of the day, I mean, those are the guys who got their hands into the engine, right? So they know about, okay, what they're actually doing, you know? So actually, they are really the last touch point where you can really maybe notice like a failure into the specs, you know, maybe into the specs, there's something that is not compliant at all. So I think that that's very important that the developers not only know, and I'm pretty sure that they all know how to do it in terms of pure tech, but they should know how to make it compliant as well. I don't know what you think, Manfred, for example, you've been into a lot of privacy architecture stuff.
Yes, I think that it depends on the kind of project, because you have starting projects, you have legacy projects, you have projects that are probably just a test that will probably be a V1 for something bigger later. So most of the time what I see is that people are not concerned by specs as early as a project is just something virtual and not accurate in terms of specification, in terms of implementation. So they don't care about the security and other stuff when they just start drawing the squares and the circles on a white table. They are deeply concerned as soon as the topic is important or as soon as they are reviewing voluntarily. But at the first moment of a project, if you start putting limits on something that is not clear for anyone, it's very difficult. And the best approach I saw was to alert people, okay, you will have some limits. Keep in mind, basically, these high-level ideas of privacy. Then make your stuff, come back to us as soon as you have something we can discuss on, and then we can iterate. Because technically, the GDPR can come with high-level requirements, but cannot come with clear specs as soon as the other specs are not ready. The developer is not yet aware of what will be the project, since it's just squares and circles and not implemented. So the best way I saw is to just alert them, let in the mind, okay, you will have to manage something. Just do the ultra low-level stuff you need to do, so we can discuss on the same whiteboard, and start adding and validating that everything will be correct. So the best approach I saw was not the GDPR team start something or the dev start something. It's maybe 1, 2, 3 iteration of giving feelings, etc. And at the moment, you will have to just validate that anything is okay. But it cannot be okay, we made the first part, take it, do your stuff, we don't speak anymore. And it cannot be done ultra lately, because as you said, if you start lately, most of the consideration won't be implemented. So it's difficult, but it's not binary, it's not you should start or this one should start. It's more about just taking some place in the mind that you will have to do something later. And when the developer have everything needed to just visualize its own idea in terms of, okay, I have a paper with schema. No, we can discuss, we can add limitation, because the rest is clear for me. you can add new things that I don't. I'm not a master, so yes, we can add one step at a time, and I can even reply to your question because I know the project.
All right. Do
So
you
clearly
agree with
depend on
that,
the.
Amal?
Yes, I just wanted to add, to build on what Manfred was saying, because you were talking about the fact that why it is recent, because there is a question of maturity on how an organization wants to do things and want to infuse a privacy culture within the organization. And while when you look at it from a compliance perspective, it's black or white, either you're compliant or you're not compliant. In real life, there is like 50 shades of gray and different manners to do things. And generally, when it's not well perceived, it's a blocker. It's blocking innovation. It's blocking development. When you do it well, it encourages people to contribute and participate. And then instead of having a ping-pong conversation between developers and lawyers or DPOs, it's more how to pass the baton the right way, as mentioned by Manfred, and build iteration, where it's a kind of learning curve. And at the end of this curve, we have a privacy compliant product.
I would agree. I would add, if I may, Jules.
Go.
Sorry. I will add that yes, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, you have DPOs as lawyers. You know? And as Amal said, a lawyer, it's not his fault. It's not. It's made like this. It's black or white. And in all my life, I'm lucky because I'm not a lawyer, you know, but I could be a good DPO, I hope. So the main point as well is the training and the culture. So the dev should have a very light, but have a light a culture level of GDPR and privacy, but as well, DPOs should learn how to talk to devs. And not to use a legal language because the dev will not hear them, and then that will block them, and then we could not be able to go on. So that's the very important point that I wanted to add to what Amal said. We need to talk the same language. So the DPOs should be taught how to talk in the dev language, and the dev people should learn how to understand. As Manfred said, you know, the high level. And then when we are all agree with the high level, then the dev can start the project, and then we can talk again, which what I called the privacy by design process, with a list of questions. But as Manfred said, to ask these questions, the dev should have started somehow and somewhere to understand the project. I would agree with that, but be able to talk together is the most important point as well.
But that's very interesting, this language problem. It's like, most of the developers, they talk about data in databases, for example, and the DPO will talk about PII that you use for a certain purpose. So we have a conflict here between the two worlds. And so, can you go further on how to make them talk the same language so they can understand each other, even if they don't understand everything from each other because they don't need to?
Well, we just do like Bryce of Nice, you know, you learn 20 words, tech words. You remember, Amal? I was giving the lawyers a list of 20 words to learn. No, I'm kidding. You need to have really, as Amal said, the main problem, but it's getting better and better. The techs and the dev people were the last one to be involved in the privacy culture of the company. It is getting better. So again, the culture. GDPR is a culture, and when you get that culture, the people can talk together. That's my point of view.
Great. Okay.
I agree with the culture, but I'll give you a small tip. Something that worked very, very well in my past experience was simply, instead of just talking, having a support, right? Because when you talk about something you build, I mean, at the end of the day, you are building like software, or there's maybe like a user interface. So if you talk with your DPO and your tech with the right support, which is like a wireframe, for example, it doesn't have to be like super shiny or whatever, but you know, a wireframe where you can draw and say, okay, I need here like a checkbox. Okay, what kind of behavior you would like behind? Okay, what is happening when I click on, you know, delete my account? Yeah, we do that and that and that. I think that, you know, having a support really helps to have a kind of conversation, because at the end of the day, you know, the whole stuff will converge to more compliance.
And I would tend to say that what is super interesting is that this debate, every organization in the world is having the same one. So it means that it requires standardization, that there is a lot of cross-fertilization to be done. And instead of coming only with questions to developers, it would be good to bring answers as well on how others are doing, some inspiration for them, etc., instead of letting it be a kind of burden that everybody, you know, is passing the hot potato to the other.
Yeah, Jan Oliver, we had this guy this morning for a talk, and it was very interesting because he said that if we want dev to be interested in implemented privacy, you have to make privacy a tech challenge, so that they don't see that as a blocking thing coming from upside down and with the lawyers they don't understand, but as something like technical they need to implement, and so they have their mind like just, yes, okay, that's a challenge, I accept it. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with the challenge, and I would add on top of that time, right? Because time, it's super important. Actually, this is the way we are organized into companies nowadays. I mean, the developer is estimating, you know, the time that it will take to implement something, and then they should deliver it more or less in the estimated time. And I believe that today they should include into this estimation the time they will take to make the stuff compliant, right? Exactly like the technical debt, you know, technical debt. And I see the compliance the same way I see technical debt, because this is something that sometimes, like Manfred said, for compliance, you are taking shortcuts, right? Because you are just releasing your product. It might be an MVP. It's something very new, not a lot of exposure, very few users. But you have to take this shortcut because you need to iterate and release fast. But at the same time, yes, you should include the time that you to resolve technical debt, but you should include time into your estimation to think about data privacy. I don't know what do you think, Manfred, about this?
Yes, I agree that you need to consider it like technical debt and just allocate some time strategically. So yes, for MVP project, you can just forget it totally because it's not the goal of the MVP. And then you need to consider that if you don't take it seriously, it can become a problem. Just something I wanted to add for the previous discussion. When we talk about developers with an S at the end of the word, I consider that this is not the role of all the developers to be involved in that subject because they have other things to care and other things to be experts. We don't have companies with only full stack with exactly the same with all the same technology and all the same skill. We have experts in database, experts in backend, experts in front end, and they all have their own homework to stay the expert in their field. And each time I saw a GDPR project actually being implemented by developers on a legacy project or a new project, each time there was one people identified to be the main people. Sometimes other people in the team were curious and take it as a challenge, as you said, and clearly like the topic and think this is important, etc. But most not every time there was only one people dedicated to make the topic not something abandoned. So sometimes it's someone we choose and they don't like it, but they need to, and they understand that they need to. And sometimes it's because they care, and as they do care, they want to make something very good. So yes, I don't think and I'm pretty sure that it's not a good idea to hope that anyone love GDPR, love privacy, etc. I don't think it's a good strategy. I like the idea of Benjamin to be a support team, because clearly the specs won't be understandable by the DPO. The DPO cannot learn all the tech language, but the DPO can give the high level direction. The tech people can learn, can try to translate by themselves their understanding into tech stuff, and then they can try to speak with the support team, me in my case, or the DPO or another developer or forum, I don't know, to validate that the translation from the legal stuff to the tech implementation is correct. So in my mind, everything is correct as soon as we just consider that this is not a global problem for all the developers, but that we need at least one developer per project to manage the project, the task seriously.
I just because we have a question in the chat, and it's cool because it makes kind of a transition, because so the person says, so in addition to company dev-tailored privacy training, and I will add like also in addition to having one dev that per team that has to manage all the conversation about privacy. What other company initiatives have you seen succeeded to bridge the gap between devs and DPOs? So we are not like what we should do, but what already exists and works.
I'm sorry, but I will probably be the only one to think this, but I don't think that forcing people to watch video or to learn things about privacy will change something. I just think that we need to say that the company want to do it correctly, that there are some identified people that will have deeper learning, etc. But most of the people that I saw that follow the listen in terms of privacy, sometimes they just click next because it was mandatory, but they don't care. And the other time, even if they listened, the day they want to implement something, they don't remember everything. They need to recheck everything. So it's just an entertainment to see the video, but it's not something you learn and remember forever. So I think you need to give the topic, to give means to learn, to validation, to ask questions, to let people you need to force people to do their work when they need to. You need to help people, give their means, give their support, give their learning, etc. But more when they need to and when they have the issue in the mind. If you give them a video right now and they need to implement something even in 2 weeks, the video won't be useful or not complete.
Okay,
the video is more something
we
entertaining
understand your point of view. Yes, so dev-tailored privacy training doesn't work. So I bet you or Amal or Xavier or Benjamin, have you seen things that already works to fill that gap between devs and DPOs? And thank you.
That it's under construction. I don't have in mind any wow example where developers are privacy engineers. So, but I wanted to complete what Manfred said, just illustrate that. And I would say that today, being a lawyer and understanding privacy is power. Being a tech lead and understanding the different facets of the tech is power. And there is a movement where each other is trying to conquer the field of the other, right? Lawyers want to understand more the tech, and the tech people want to understand better in the privacy so that they don't have any more constraints and have like big stops to their project. However, I agree with Manfred that today privacy trainings are super boring and they are done because it's mandatory more than some of them. It's true that there are some gamification around privacy, but it has a cost. And to be honest, it's difficult to scale such solutions. But today it's an obligation, it's mandatory, it's a burden for our organization to train people. And they have to do it to understand the basics. And I agree again with Manfred that not everybody can become a privacy expert. However, I will conclude by saying that it's like digital. Today, everybody needs to understand what is digital, what will be the impact on their jobs, how they have to face it. And for privacy, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
All right, Xavier, do you want to add something on that?
I would add one thing to Manfred. We don't need the dev to know about privacy. As you said, I completely agree with that. What I was saying is you need at least a first layer of culture just to have a common language and to understand a few words. I will add that, yes, Amal, we need some practical training. And as an example, I have a development team in my own company, okay, for a privacy solution, okay? I've explained to them the basics of privacy, and I use the challenge way with them, saying, okay, my dream is that if somebody tomorrow asks me about to access his own data, find me a solution for me to be able to follow the data through the process, okay? And the challenge idea, as Benjamin said earlier on, or Amal, I don't remember who, but whatever, is a very good solution, and it did work. Meaning they came to me saying, okay, Xavier, we thought about this and that with my problem. So I didn't present it as a legal problem, but as a technical problem. How will I find the data in your developments? Okay, can you put in sound? I don't know how you say sound.
Sensor.
A sensor. Can you put a sensor while the development is going on the data for me to be able later on to follow it? They came up with the idea. Okay, we work with François Xavier Cao on this subject as well, and so maybe it's an idea. It worked. Yeah, I'm not a big company. The problem is very more complicated, and that's the problem of Manfred when you have very large companies, because I'm talking about a small team of dev. Okay, but it is at least one solution.
All right.
So when you have big companies, the idea of Manfred to put a leading guy could be the solution, and for the conversation to go on between the two parties.
Yeah, I totally agree. At least from what I saw from the feed, is definitely that the developer is really the one who can, raise the flag. They don't have to know all the details and the legal aspect, but at least have the sensitivity to really raise the flag at the right moment. And sometimes, the DPO can just take this flag and say, okay, so let's dig in. What is your data lifecycle, and so on and so on. And then maybe they found out like more bigger problems. I don't know. But definitely, as long as the developer has this sensitivity, I think it's totally fine. And with a mature DPO, I think it's a good solution. And just to jump on another topic, on some rare cases, I saw as well on the field where some developers were believing that they were like super expert into privacy, and they were like over engineering their solution. I put like encryption, and this is like asymmetric stuff and so on. And in the end, they end up with something like super complex that was like slowing down the roadmap, and by the way, making the solution like so complex that even the DPO could not understand why they done that, because into GDPR there's this stuff about the purpose, because if you know why you are for building this, then you can put the security measure that is relevant for your purpose. And sometimes you put all your encryption stuff, and what for? Yes, it's just for like a birthday column into your database. Okay, all right. It's a personal data indeed, but it's not. It may be
that's critical.
that important, So yeah, I don't know what you think, guys, about this.
Yeah, that's the idea of good enough concerning privacy compliance. So, guys, what do you think is good enough concerning privacy compliance? Because we can't always like be 100% compliant, or spend the whole year like encrypting the birth date of a person. So yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, it's a very big question and very tough. And actually, it's a question that is not only on the field of privacy, but as well like road mapping in general, you know, deciding what's best for your company, you know. And I think that definitely developers are super important, but sometimes there are some cases where the product manager, you know, or the product owner should be into the conversation, because they knew at the beginning why the company has been deciding to build this new stuff, you know. So I think that into the conversation sometimes, you know, having what is important is that having the developers be really proactive to like ping the product owner with the DPO and having a conversation around this encryption stuff. I think it might be a very good solution instead of being like reactive, you know. And definitely being reactive, we all know here that it's not a really good way to manage data privacy compliance.
This is very important what has just been said, because some DPOs maybe are too strict. I use the word, I'm saying more CNIL-esque than the CNIL, you know. And at the end of the day, what we should all remember, and the product manager will remind us, we need to sell the product. Yeah, okay. And we need to remember as well that I will just turn it around. Usually, the GDPR is seen as a burden, as a real main problem. I will put it that way. I see it for the past 20 years, privacy. I see privacy as a business opportunity. I'm always saying privacy is good for business. And we all need to remember that. Dev, marketing, DPOs, and all that. At the end of the day, what we want to do is to sell what we develop. Are we agree? Do we agree with that, Manfred? We need to sell the product.
Yes and no. I consider that this choice is for the CEO. Each time I had to choose, each time I had a dilemma between being too good but taking risk in terms of business. I designed plan A, plan B, plan C in terms of tech. I defined the cost, the timing, the risk, etc. Then I worked with the DPO so she can measure and add the legal risk, the legal rate of just being the various risks, and then we ask the CEO, because the DPO is not here to choose, is here to explain, to help, to architect, to place process, but technically the last word in our case is the CEO. As soon as he has plan A, plan B, plan C, risk, benefits, etc., then he can choose. And each time we did this, and it was okay, because sometimes we took some risk and we knew why, and we all and everyone accepted. And every time we take a bigger risk, we always add a plan to fix the risk later. Sometimes we say, okay, this risk is here, but not too much, so we take it forever. Or while we don't have any external blinking that say, okay, you need to do something. And sometimes we decide to make the over engineering, because in that case, it's something we all fear that can be a nightmare later. So
I completely agree with what you just said, Manfred, but I don't know your DPO, but the main mission of a DPO is exactly what you said. Is to raise the risk regarding compliance to a solution, but it's not to say yes or no. The DPO is just there to say, this is risky, this is how the CNIL could see it, this is how the GDPR, what the GDPR says. I completely agree with that. And at the end of the day, the CEO will decide what we called the data controller. At the end of the day, that's the one who is deciding. But he has in mind that privacy privacy should be good for business. He's got in mind the business, and he will take the risk regarding that business. I completely agree.
I just go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
I just wanted to add something about, you mentioned how to manage it. I think that organizations should be kind to themselves, in a sense that managing GDPR compliance is complex, because it addresses a living basis. You know, processing are changing, etc. You have to manage a legacy. and transforming the legacy can cost arms and legs. So it's a journey. It's not a status, it's a journey. And I don't believe at all into green dashboards, because for me, if it's green, then it's a watermelon. It's green outside and red inside. And I would tend to say that for organization today, the purpose is really to look at it and be courageous. Like looking at what can be done seriously, what can't be done, what is the reason why it can't be done, is it budget, is it lack of expertise, and all the difficulties and challenges we have addressed, and be able to really map the risk on that basis. And as a conclusion, I also agree with Manfred that then it becomes a top management decision on what risk can we take, where we put the money this year, and maybe what we address next year.
Yeah, and I think all we say here is also a more general question about what is the real role of a DPO today, and what should it be? Because we have in the chat, Mehdi, we say that in the next 5 years, privacy transferred little by little from legal to IT, so from DPO to developer. So maybe my first question is, do you agree with that? And after the second question will be more on so today what should be the role of a DPO, because we talk a lot about the developer, what it should do, how to organize dev teams to discuss with DPO, but I think it's important also to understand what could do a DPO in this in an organization.
Yeah, what it should not be, Jules, is just what I said. What is it should not, the DPO should not be the one to be a burden and to put GDPR as a burden, as a constraint, okay, to company. The DPO role is not to say yes or no. The DPO role is and it's not to play like the CNIL, okay? We are not the data protection authority. We are just a supervisor, an advisor, to tell the company how that project could be done to be compliant with GDPR. And then the data controller will take the risk or not, okay? Our role is to give the advice. So, and certainly not to be the one who say, I've seen people like that, you know, more lawyers, actually, to say, no, this cannot be done. It's not what we ask you to say. We ask you to find a legal solution, or to tell me how far can I go, technically speaking. So that's the first answer. I would say that's how I will answer to your question, Jules.
And I can complete that point as well, because we also need to see the criticality of that role, in the sense that the DPO has to be independent. He's representing the organization near regulators, and representing regulators near his own company. And he has that kind of partial role of potential whistleblower, because he has to alert his organization, and it's one of his duty. And in that space, he's carrying the ethics of the brand, of the company, and it's his responsibility. And that is why sometimes it is a bit, they're acting this role a bit too seriously, if I can say it that way. And at the same time, he has to give the power to all the different, I would say, bodies of the organization, so that everybody own their own responsibilities. And it's not the DPO who is alone responsible for GDPR compliance in the organization. At the end, he's more an orchestrator of the compliance, in my sense.
And yeah, it's very interesting. And so what you say about DPO being an advisor, but what I would like to understand also is, so you have developers, DPOs, you have the product team, you have the marketing team. So it's a kind of a ballet of everyone trying to construct a product. So where do you put like the DPO? At what moment in the process the DPO has to work to achieve compliance or privacy by design during the work to build a product or a feature?
So I would say it's super hard to involve the DPO at each stage and every time and on every module that you are developing in a company, because at the end of the day, I mean, just for a pure question of operational efficiency in every organization, you end up with a bottleneck. The DPO is just a bottleneck. So you just stuck your company. So I think this is really an anti-pattern that it's not a very good idea. But as we said before, yes, the developers should raise the flag and so on. But as well, it's a question of expectation. What is the, if I may qualify like this, like what is the level of compliance you would like to reach? For me, for example, tomorrow privacy should be a no-brainer. I mean, for some stuff, for example, in the past, disaster recovery was, something that you were designing beforehand and so on. And today it's state of the art. You don't ask your tech team to build a disaster recovery plan. It's here. It's by design. It must be recoverable. And of course, then maybe you have some specs you want to like backups every hour instead of every day to make it more like often. So I would say that the same way for compliance, there's some stuff like the disaster recovery that should be a no-brainer. For example, yesterday, in terms of data lifecycle, the developer was like just keeping everything for a long life period. So today I see more and more developers, and tomorrow I hope more and more, that they will ask themselves, okay, what is the data retention period for this birthday date, for example, and I think that having this kind of sensitivity about that will help to directly at the beginning integrate like a retention period that makes sense without really asking the DPO at the first take, in order to not block the process and really like just go ahead and later on, batch order your question and then ask the DPO, and the DPO can be involved like under like 2 weeks or a month.
It depends.
It depends.
That's why I said level of compliance.
I would say that, and I would agree what Manfred said early on. The DPO should be there at the start, at the first step. Okay, just to give the main point on the privacy by design project, just the main guidelines. Okay, and then disappear. The text will develop and then come back to do what you say, Benjamin. I would agree, and not module by module. I would agree with that. One more important point. I'm coming back to what Mehdi said, Jules. The DPOs won't disappear. I can tell you that. Or become less and less important. I disagree with that, because just do remember that Europe is playing a very huge, I would say, business model with GDPR to go back on text, actually, that are predominant by the Google, Amazon, and etc. on one side, and the Asian people on the other side. The privacy is the main tool for Europe to go back on text. As I said, privacy is good for business, okay, and it's the way Europe found, to help to protect the data. But the main thing is business.
Finally, if I do a summary of lots of things we say today. So the developer doesn't have to know everything about GDPR, because the DPO is here to advise them about GDPR. So what we have to do finally is to make the privacy culture growing in companies, not to have developers that knows everything, but to have developers that detect when they have a problem, or detect that maybe there is a problem because I don't know, they will transfer data or do something with data. And so just for them to say, oh, okay, there is data that is probably personal data, there is probably a problem, so I need to refer to the DPO or to refer to my team, the dev responsible for privacy in the team. So do you agree with that?
Totally. On my side, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
I would say that it needs tailored content for developers, more precise information that they can deal with. And I do believe that there is a work of construction to be made. just to to fill in that gap we were discussing at the beginning of this session.
Do you know, Jules, when you said early on, what are the main points in GDPR in development? I will see 4 aspects. We talked about them. The main problems with GDPR are retention period, okay, security matters, access rights, where is the data, and to start with, how you collect data. If you give that layer of culture to devs with these 4 or 5 main subjects, okay, that will be my problem as a DPO to solve. After we can talk about that to start with, then after, if they have that culture, it should work. As I said, it's not as simple as that. I know. I'm just trying to, to give. GDPR is complicated, but the rights of people, retention period, security is the main aspects of it, I would say.
Thank you. Maybe Manfred, what do you think about that? About the minimum layer we should know as a dev, like to be able to know, we have to ask the question.
I disagree a little bit because I think it's fun, it's entertaining, it's even healthy to have a good culture, but it's not something that's self-solution. Because as Benjamin said, sometimes you are doing over engineering, and over engineering is a sign of juniorness, not of seniorness, not of seniority. And that's because people have a lot of small topics with a low level. Having a good culture is a thing. Helping people to maybe be more aware of, okay, there can be something critical here, and it's a good place to talk. It's clearly good. But technically, what works in the reality is to have someone which is more senior that will verify, that will validate, that will review the work. So having the culture is a bonus, but I think it's a costly bonus. So it's my opinion, because it is positive in terms of culture, in terms of a lot of things, but not in terms of compliance. For me, the compliance, if you want to be effective and cost effective, and let the business have all its potential to do the business, etc., it's more optimized to focus on having a few senior people that will be very I don't know.
But Manfred, if you don't develop a privacy way, it will cost you a lot more.
I didn't say you shouldn't be privacy. I just say that wanting that everyone has a small level of privacy versus having just few seniors. I think the few seniors is cost effective and more efficient, and having everyone having a good culture is good in terms of healthiness, in terms of culture, but not in terms of results to get better privacy. I think it's good and encourage people to be curious about the topic. But if you really want to address the topic as fastly as best as possible, I prefer the approach of having a few people that are more senior.
So we will have a 20-minute culture layer for the dev, and a 1 hour and a half culture privacy training for the senior one, and
responsibilities.
And 3 hours one for the project manager. You can adapt the training and the culture to the level of necessity, Manfred. That's what I would do, and that's what I'm doing in the company I'm working with.
Yeah. So we have just 1 minute left. So I would like just to have the the word of Amal and Benjamin. So
I would just say, or it will trigger the creation of new jobs dedicated to that. Infusing this culture. That's it.
So I agree with all of what have been said right now, but I will re-ask the question of Jules, and I think this works. Instead of putting too much, because we put a lot of pressure on tech right now into this conversation, and I would say as well, what is the minimum knowledge that the DPO should have in terms of tech? Because I mean, the DPO, he cares about the GDPR. Of course, the only issue is that he or she cannot read the code. As I mean, that's as basic as that. And I think that today, exactly as you know, the tech got a lot of tools to do everything. I think that the DPO are lacking tools as well, tools and knowledge to have, you know, give more power back to the DPO. You know. I think
I started saying that at the start, if you remember, Benjamin. I started by saying that, you know, not to have a legal language. Yeah,
we just closed the loop. Wonderful.
So,
perfect conclusion.
Everybody needs.
Thank you.
Need new tools and more tools. It's okay.
And knowledge.
To handle that.
And knowledge. Same language.
Knowledge. Okay, sorry. So thank you very much. We are just in time. So thank you very much, Xavier, Amal, Manfred, and Benjamin. Thank I will say in French. Thank you very much, and I invite you to continue this discussion in the chat if you wish, or together, because I see that you have lots of things to say even after 1 hour of discussion. So
okay, many thanks to all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you to the API team.